Today on this Warhammer 40K competitive battle report, we have the Tyranid Subterranean Assault. It's back against the Aeldari Guardian Battle Host. I bet y'all have not seen this detachment yet either. So if you're wondering how these two armies match up against each other, you're going to want to stick around, because I'm essentially going to take this game, this 3-hour game, condense it down into roughly 20 minutes, giving you what worked, what didn't work, and simply passing that knowledge on to you, because I really do believe if one of us gets better, then we all get better. Now, I will preface as well that even though Tyranids and Aeldari are on the report today, hopefully a lot of the concepts that I'll be talking about and generalities will apply to your army as well. So even if you don't play these two, if you play Thousand Suns, you play Death Guard, you play New Black Templars maybe, you can take some of these concepts and apply it to your next game. So like the previous battle report, we are playing on Layout 1, Tipping Point, and Lich Pin. So I'm going to have a link to my list down below, and so you guys can check that out. But in a nutshell, we are running with double Norns still today. We have double Raveners, and these are our Raveners as of right now, because if you didn't already know, Raveners are unfortunately super hard to get, or if you can get them, they are very expensive. And so as of right now, since I'm not going to be playing, in a tournament with Tyranids anytime soon, not really going to worry about getting those models unless there's some kind of hookup. But other than that, these are going to be our Raveners on our 40 mils. We have a unit of Gene Stealers, 2 units of Gargoyles, of course, the Biovore. I'm a big fan of the 6-brick Zoanthrope unit. I think they're great. I think Hive Guard are still very interesting right now as well. I haven't personally run them just because I feel like once Knights especially are out of the meta, I think we just have some better options, and especially with Grey Knights, Black Templars, Space Wolves, all of these Marine detachments with access to Armor Contempt, I feel like Hive Guard are going to feel really bad, because it's just like, well, AP1, you Armor Contempt, so I'm still saving on 2s. It's not the best. So I think Hive Guard are going to be kind of a temporary thing you're going to see right now, and I think Zoanthropes, even while I do admit they're really expensive, they can still do a lot of damage. They could punch up. So going into the game here, let's flip it over and get into the report, shall we? So Subterranean, we pulled this one off, and from the picture here, you are getting a taste of going first here, or this picture was taken right after turn 1. So just going over deployment and what's kind of going through my mind here. So he has these D cannons that you're seeing here, which are super good. They do a lot of damage. They have indirect. They have access to dev wounds. He's got some Dark Reavers and this Wave Serpent here, and then he's just got a ton of Guardians. He's got an Avatar right here. So and the big thing in this matchup is Aeldari. He has a decent number of units, so I'm not gonna automatically win the trade war in this matchup, and he has a very good way of getting rid of the Norns. All right, which is unfortunate, but we're gonna run into matchups like that. So going into this match, more or less what I'm thinking as far as deployment is I'm actually running the, the enhancement for Tremor Senses. So the enhancement where you can redeploy 3 units or put them in reserve, which I think is, it's a cool enhancement. I think if you have the points left over and you just can't really squeeze something in, it's fine. But I think really the only enhancement that I ideally would like to run is just the Trigon Prime. And that's pretty much it. I don't think really the other enhancements personally I think you need. But that's just what I've noticed so far of the reps, the few reps that I've gotten. So going into this first turn, mainly what I'm looking at here, and there's a lot of good things to talk about, is does he have a way to get this Wave Serpent out and potentially threaten the Norn turn 1? And what type of output can he essentially get over here? So I know that the Avatar, there's no way for him to advance and charge. There's no way for these Bright Lances to get over here. So I'm essentially reading the board and saying, like, look, okay, the Norn, at least in the first turn, I can reliably get on my objective, and I don't have to worry about the Norn getting one-shotted. He might take some chip damage, but at the end of the day, being able to score at least those 8 points on primary going into turn 2 is really going to help. And that's the one thing I think that the Norn solves for Subterranean, especially if you're just running one of them, is how reliable is it for you to at least get like 8 points on primary, 10 points on primary going into turn 2, depending on what mission that you're playing. So we're essentially going to move the Norn up. The Gargoyles, or not the Gargoyles, the Gene Stealers, they scouted up 8 over this way, and then they just lined the wall 1 inch here. I love a unit of 5 Gargoyles in this Gene Stealers in this attachment, just because they actually do damage. A lot of times you don't need any sort of like primary denial turn 1. Sometimes you need like a move block, but the Gene Stealers, I think, are really good. Just a unit of 5, 75 points that are a really good option to potentially get rid of infiltrators, 10-man annoying units turn 1 that Hormagaunts and Gargoyles are just not going to do. So we're going to move up the Lictors. We have another Lictor in reserve along with a Screamer Killer, one of the other Norn emissaries. So there's a lot of stuff up on the board. Okay, so this is essentially our turn 1, nothing too crazy, and then we're going to pass it over to Eric. So actually, one thing I will talk about before we go into bottom of 1 is drawing overwhelming force and sabotage. So this is a really good example of why I think the Hive Tyrant is almost better in every way than the Swarm Lord. Because of the fact that with Challenger cards going first, a lot of times there's going to be one card that's a dud. And so it gives you the option where you see the Hive Tyrant here has this 12-inch bubble where essentially, as long as you have them deployed in the center of your army or things that you want to pick up, it synergizes really well with the ability to discard Overwhelming Force to get a CP. And then at the end of your turn, because you're at the end of your opponent's turn, you have the flexibility to use the CP reduction to pop a unit up. So if I need to pop up the Zoanthropes, or if I need to pop up a unit of Gargoyles, whatever it may be, I have the flexibility to do that, which I think is really nice. So you kind of almost double benefit from the CP gen there. So, and he's 25 less points, I think, than the Swarm Lord. So he's been great in both of my games. I've really liked him. So Eric's going to stage up. He's going to get behind enemy lines in area denial turn 1, which was unfortunately kind of rough because the Gene Stealers are lining the objective here. So he can only get baby area denial if he wanted to go for it. And then behind enemy lines is just going to be a CP. So you're going to see him stage up here. But he did not want to try to interact with the Gene Stealers because of potential heroic intervene threats. And the Gene Stealers will just clean him up, more or less. So this is essentially what the board state looks like bottom of turn 1. So we picked up the Raveners, and we picked up the Zoanthropes with the free CP reduction. And then going into my turn, you're seeing pretty much the majority of my army is off the board. So going into turn 2, we're going to score 8 points on primary because we hold these 2 objectives. And these are also, I would like to point out, our Norn markers. You're seeing them right here. So this Norn is covering this one, and then I have another Norn on my opponent's natural expansion. So going into turn 2, we get Extend Battle Lines, Assassination. I do cycle Assassination for Secure No Man's Land. And then at this point, I'm like, okay, these are 2 really good cards. Now I have to decide. I'm like, okay, pretty much no matter what, I think I'm going to give him a Challenger card. So I pretty much decide, I'm like, all right, from here on out, it's basically foot on the gas, and we really need to just make sure that we're pushing a differential, a really strong differential, because pretty much at the bottom of turn 5, he's going to get between 20 and 25 points, and I have to account for that. That's just more or less how the game is working right now. So we're like, all right, foot's on the gas, here we go. So you're going to see the Gargoyles come out, which I love them for, where they're just going to move their 12 inches. Actually, you're going to see that here. So they move their 12 inches. I actually don't shoot with them. I just move their 12 because the big thing that I want to do is I want to try to tag the Wave Serpent. Is going to give me a lot more value than just shooting and fire and fading. And the other thing that I love about gargoyles over like Hormagaunts is just you can play around Overwatch a lot easier, and it just gives you a lot more options to get on objectives and get area denial. And then the other thing too is they have deep strike, so you have flexibility to pop them up, deep strike them, bring them through a tunnel, something like that. They're great. Okay, so basically this is more or less what the turn looks like. Raveners are going to drop down here. We're going to bring in a tunnel here and here. And that is pretty much the turn. The rest we just leave up in the air because we're getting our secondaries. We're controlling the board. He still doesn't have like a decent threat on the Norn, so I end up just keeping it there. We put the Lictor in Heroic Intervene range, and that is more or less the turn. So you're going to see here that the Gargoyles move in. They tag the Wave Serpent, as you can see. And that's pretty much the turn. So going into bottom of turn 2, we're going to give Eric a 3 on primary because we hold both of the objectives the one objective that he was on in No Man's Land, and he still has area denial and established locus. So he is going to essentially move the Avatar up to the center to potentially get area denial here, and then he's going to take care of these gargoyles here, so it's a pretty easy turn for him. So you're going to see that play out here. And is moving up the Guardians, more resources here. And let's see what happens here. So the Lictor at the top of the screen, rapid ingress is in, which is really nice. It's a really cool thing about Lictors. You know, you can rapid ingress them or you still spend the 1 CP, but they heroic intervene for free, which is kind of cool. Or maybe I have it the other way around. Let me double check here. Yeah, my wires crossed. Okay. Point of a new army here. I can't remember. Let's see. Lictors. Before I say something that's not true, rapid ingress for 0 CP. It's the other ones that heroic it for free. All right, so Lictors come in, cool, rapid ingress for free, right there, so he can threaten this objective next turn. Gargoyles end up hanging out right here, but I think he had some other shots into him. Yeah, to clean him up. And then Gene Stealers are hanging on by a thread with the indirect, which was super clutch. So there's still 2 left, and then goes into my turn. So turn 3. We are going to get a 8 on primary because we're going to hold this objective and this objective. And we get Cull the Horde, which we can't do. Defend Stronghold should be an easy 3 victory points. Behind enemy lines, which we also can't do because if you're looking at this board right now, there is stuff everywhere. And we have Bring It Down. So this I had to take a second to kind of think about because I'm like, man, this is an easy target right here for bringing down, but I also have the Avatar right here, and I'm like, ooh, like I could go for the guarantee, but the thing is, the Avatar is like a really juicy target that if I can get him off the field, it is going to be massive, because he's definitely a legitimate threat to the Norns. And the more threats that I can eliminate the Norns in the early game, the better I'm going to be in the late game when I'm trying to push. So I was like, all right, you know what? Let's just see. It's a practice game. Let's see what we got. So let's just go for the Avatar. Let's do it. So more or less going into my turn, we're going to try to go after the Avatar for Bring It Down, and we're going to get Defend Stronghold. So you're going to see the positioning here where lots of stuff is going to come out. And this is the scary part with Subterranean. Is you're like, man, all the stuff can just come out at once, just like this. So essentially what ends up happening is the Raveners drop in. They create they create a tunnel, but they're also coming in off of this tunnel 9 inches. So they're still basically staying outside of 6 of the Avatar right here. And then we drop the Zoanthropes in wholly within 9 here. To target the Avatar right here. Okay. Now, here's one really cool thing with the Screamer Killers that I think is super interesting is this potential synergy with the Battle Shock at -1 and the Zoanthropes, because when you have the Neurotyrant in there, they're +1 to hit. And then if they're attacking a unit that's battle shock, they're also +1 to wound. So a lot of things in the game they would be able to wound on 2s, which is super, super good. So I think there's some stuff that I want to test, even running like double screamer killers, like on your go turn, where you're able to like double trigger a battle shock, potentially shadows in the warp, get a battle shock. So on that like target you really need to get go, there's some cool synergies there. So this is essentially the board state. We're going to keep the Norn right there. He's kind of safe, like in his pocket, just cashing me in points. He's doing what he needs to. And essentially my thought process is I think the Zoanthropes plus a Trigon Prime and the Raveners, I think can kill the Avatar. Because remember, he's T11. He's got like 16 wounds. He's half damage. So he's tough to get through. All right. So essentially what ends up happening, Zoanthropes fire. They get 8 las cannon hits through because they're sus lethal with the CP. And I get like 6 or 7, or actually I think I got 8 las cannon wounds through. It was crazy. And so we end up getting the Avatar down to 3 wounds just with the Zoanthropes, which was crazy. Now, is that going to happen every time? Absolutely not. But I think if you position right, they're really, really good. So the Screamer Killer did try to battle shock the Avatar. Unfortunately, didn't, which happens, but it's worth a shot. And then we had the other shots like clean up this stuff here, and we charge in. Now this is where it gets crazy interesting. So we charge in. The Screamer Killer, unfortunately, he fails his charge. I spent the CP to get reroll charges on everything here, so everything was on a 6 or like a 7. I think the Screamer Killer was rerolling, but we failed, which happens. So he ended up just sitting there, unfortunately. But the most important things is these 2 units made their charges, okay? So going in, Trigon Prime, all of his attacks, 3 wounds left on the Avatar, does 0 damage. And I'm like, dude, this could be real bad real fast. So, of course, he spends 2 CP. Avatar is going to counter offensive on the Raveners. Thankfully, the Raveners survive with 2 bodies left. And you're going to see that here. They end up popping the Avatar, like almost to the wound. So I read it right as far as damage, which was good. Yeah, and that's a classic thing with the Warhammer. You gotta almost overcommit than what you think if you really need to get a target off the table. So just a good showcase there, where even if you have things spike, things could still go wrong in combat, and you're caught on the back foot, and all of a sudden you're not getting bring it down, and all of a sudden you're not taking control at that point. It could have been real bad. So. And then the Lictor comes up here, essentially. We tie up this unit. Gene Stealers come up here. And so we have them kind of like in this threat overload, mini threat overload situation, I would say. So we have a Lictor here, Gene Stealers here, like all of this stuff, like little stuff in his face. And I'm like, all right, what do you want to do about it? Okay. Which he does a good job of counter punching here. So he's going to move up, Wave Serpent. Guys are going to get out. He's going to just do some damage to these Zoanthropes here. He definitely has enough output to get rid of the Screamer Killer and really just clean up a lot of this stuff here. So he's going to get another... this is going to be bottom of turn 3. He is going to get an 8 on primary because I failed my charge and a challenger card. But he does get a tempting target and cleanse, which would make this one tempting. And he just didn't have enough resources to cleanse this turn. He was kind of like in a weird spot because he really needed to get stuff off the table. So you're going to see that here where he does a really good job of, cleaning everything up. So you're going to see basically this is the end of bottom of 3, where kills the Trigon, gets the Raveners down. The Gene Stealers somehow survive. They spiked on invols crazy. Like, it was, I made like 6 5-ups in a row. It was not okay. And then these guys charged in. Wave Serpent charged in the Lictor. I think it got it down to like 1 wound. But it did a good job of cleaning up more or less that mini punch. And now going into turn 4, we got to bring in the rest of the stuff. So you're going to see that play out here. We're going to put these gargoyles in. They're going to be used as like a screen and area denial, or sorry, not area denial, but a primary denial piece, which they are great for. And we get storm, hostile, and area denial. So this is another like amazing showcase of what gargoyles can do. They're going to score me 5 points on area denial, and they're going to stretch out to deny this objective here. They're just so strong in subterranean for so many ways, for so many different reasons. So Norn's going to come out here and come through the tunnel, and then stay outside of 6 of the Wave Serpent here. Raveners are going to move up, as you can see here, to connect with these Guardians, and Hive Tyrant is going to come out to play as well, which was, I think, one of another kind of slight mistake I made in this game. I think I could have saved him one more turn and then just sent the Raveners to go interact with these Guardians over here instead. But, you know, you learn. You'll learn through reps, right? So this is essentially the board state. Hive Tyrant ends up getting the character down to, I think, like 1 wound. So he killed the unit and then almost killed the character. I think I missequenced this a little bit, where I ended up putting the Melta or the shots from the Norn into the Wave Serpent when I should have just put them on this unit instead. And then I think I probably would have cleaned up the unit. But still, solid turn. We got 5 points for area denial. We got storm, hostile. And then I don't think we actually ended up killing the Wave Serpent with the Norn, which was hilarious. He was only on like 2 wounds. So passes it over to him. And now we're basically saying, hey, we got OC 15 here, OC 15 here. It's bottom of turn 4. What do you want to do about it? So he's going to get a 3 on primary again. He also gets storm, hostile, and assassination. So he's going to go and kill the Hive Tyrant pretty easy. And then he's going to try to go after these Norns. And you're going to see this play out here, where he gets these guys in, drops them in on a 9 with their special CP that can like bring a Guardian unit up, heal them, and then bring them back down. So he ends up banging a 9 on the objective here, which you're going to see right here. So he ends up killing the Hive Tyrant with assassination and shooting. This boy goes over here, charges in, tries to do some D-cannon shots, but he only gets this Norn down to 7. So we end up holding this point, and then he does do a good job of YOLOing the 9 here, and the Norn does not kill enough Guardians in order to take back the point, because the Guardians are OC2. So he did a good job of just keeping me on an 8 instead of a 13 going into my turn 5. So going to my turn 5, we're just going to get an 8. So we hold this objective and this objective. And you're going to see this play out here, where now we're going to pick up the Raveners. We're going to drop them. I think at this point we're more or less kind of talking it out. So the Raveners come down here. They're going to charge in, clean up the Guardians, just trying to clean up just trying to clean up what I can, try to limit his scoring. And then the Norn's going to come in, clean up the Wave Serpent, and then this is essentially the end of the game, where he gets bring it down, extend battle lines, and unfortunately it was not enough with all of this shooting and the charge to actually get rid of this Norn. So he charges in. He still is going to hold the objective. So you will get a 13 on primary at the end, because he's going to hold this objective, and this objective. And then he does also get extend battle lines, of course, as well. And that is essentially the game. So Tyranids squeaked this one out 80-63. Even with the 3 challenger cards in play. Very, very good game. And yeah, I mean, overall the list felt really cool. I wish the Screamer Killer could have got into combat, but definitely the Screamer Killers are something that I want to test more with. I think there's some really good synergy there with the zone tropes. I mean, you know, of course it'd be great if you know, they failed their battle shock test, but I don't necessarily love revolving a game plan around battle shock tests. I think it's also interesting. I also want to experiment with one Neurolictor. So one thing I've been thinking about is upgrading. I'm running 2 Lictors right now, but dropping one of the Lictors and just upgrading it to a Neurolictor by dropping the Tremor Senses enhancement. It's an even 80 points. Because the Neurolictor is interesting, where it's kind of a piece that you probably want to have in reserve, because being able to rapid ingress it in off of a tunnel and be within 12 inches of a unit that potentially you want to battle shock going into your turn, I think is pretty strong. And having the added benefit where if that unit is battle shocked, it's what is it, -1 to hit, and then if any of your units are +1 to wound. So I think there's some good synergy there by dropping it in, especially on your go turn, and getting some added benefit there. I think the other benefit with the Neurolictor is it has the synapse keyword. And the one nice thing is, especially it's something that you're going to have probably in the midfield. So positioning it correctly where you're able to trigger a battle shock test, and also having it next to the Screamer Killers where they're going to benefit from the synapse, so it bumps them up to strength 11. Or if you're running like a Horror Specs or something like that, where it's strength 8 and then strength 15. But I think it's a very interesting break point if you have the Screamer Killer with the Neurolictor. Seems very cool. So I want to try that out and see how that plays. But one Norn feels great. Double Norns I think is just cool. It's just fun. But yeah, if y'all stuck around this long, appreciate you watching, and we will catch you in the next one.